Congratulations, you just finished week 4, which means you are halfway done. So hopefully it's going by quickly for you and you're learning a lot. The second half is going to be even more hands-on. So while it is a lot of work, I think it's even more rewarding when you get to actually produce stories and write them and get to create something from scratch. And speaking of that, I will be reading your hard news stories this week. I'll make sure to give you lots of feedback, and please go back and read the feedback. Make sure you understand it. When I give feedback, it's not just so you understand whatever grade it is that you got. It's so that you can use that feedback, learn from it, and then use it on your next story and keep improving. And we have another story that'll be given out this week. So that's why I edit these quickly. That's why I give you so much feedback, because it's a learning device. It's a learning tool. I'm not expecting you to be experts. That's why you're taking this class. I know you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's all right. And that's why I want to give you this feedback so you can see what mistakes you made and then you don't keep repeating them. So let's talk about what you're going to be doing this week. You're going to be reading chapters 10 and 17. And in 17, all you have to do is read pages 322 to 333. So that's all you need to read in chapter 17, and then read all of chapter 10. And you'll have a quiz, so you know that drill. You're also going to begin your feature story, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And of course, continue to read a few news stories each day. This is a good time for me to just make a note of something. Last week you did a little bit with leads and nut graphs, and I want to make sure, because I think there's a little confusion still on this aspect of leads. So leads are very broad in the most general sense. So you don't put people's names, generally not put the time or a specific location in the lead. The only time there's an exception for name, if it's a celebrity or a person of prominence. So if it was, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Beyonce, if they're part of the story, you're going to be putting them, use their name in the lead, right? If it's just a person, that's not really a celebrity, not prominence, then you're not going to use their name. So the example from the quiz was, I said, Mary Smith, a nurse who's worked for 20 years and never missed a day, if you remember that question. Well, you wouldn't put Mary Smith in the lead because nobody knows who Mary Smith is. You say, a nurse at Hartford Hospital for over 20 years is receiving a prestigious award. Then in the next paragraph, which is the nut graph, in the next paragraph, Mary Smith is receiving this so-and-so award from, you name the organization, you name the time, location. Then you give the specific details. So the lead is very broad. Here's another example that I give you that I use this one in one of my on-ground classes. You could say something like, this could be a lead. A University of Hartford professor got in a lot of trouble for breaking all the machines in his classroom, right? That's the lead. So I know it's a University of Hartford professor. I know that he broke the classrooms, or the machines in a classroom, so I know what happened. I could have even said the date, last Wednesday or something like that. But I don't know specifically who the professor is. I don't know the details of it. Then maybe the next paragraph, the nut graph says, Adam Chiara, a professor at the University of Hartford, got in a fight with the student and was so mad, broke all the machines. Now I'm giving more details. And now I'm talking just like you guys know about nut graphs. I'm giving you like the focus of the story. So I know that who the person is, why they broke the machines, why this is of significance, and you give the story a little bit more. So hopefully that's giving you a better idea. But that lead is just very general. It is the who, what, when, where, why. You're trying to get that in there. But you're not giving all the specific details. The next paragraph and the ones that follow give you the specific details. So think about that in your writing. I'll, of course, be giving you notes in your hard news story if you gave too many details in that lead. But just keep that, because it is a tough thing to do. It is a tough thing to learn and to get good at. But the more you practice not putting details right away all in that lead, you'll start to see the science behind it, and it will become a little easier for you. All right, so let's talk about your homework for this week. So you have the quiz. You will also have a profile story. So I know I'm giving you the profile story right after the hard news story. This is 16 weeks worth of content into 8. So it's basically, as you know, this is a lot of information we have to cram in a short amount of time. So these stories are crunched together. In a perfect world, I wouldn't have you just finish your hard news story and start the profile story right after. But I'm going to have to do it just because this is for the pacing of the class, how we can get everything done in time. So I am giving you a profile story. Your profile story is a little different. It's part of the feature stories, which you'll learn about this week. So it's a feature story. It's different, written differently than the hard news story. So I'm not going to go all over that in this video because that's what you're going to learn about this chapter. But hard news is, in a nutshell here, hard news is, like I said before, and like you read about, there's a fire, it's going on, and you're covering the fire, a police chase, or something in the moment, right? Sports games are hard news if you're covering the actual game because you're in the moment and you're covering what's happening, right there. You only get one chance to cover it. Feature stories and profiles, which are a part of feature stories, that's a little bit more of, it's not just talking about an event, it's talking about a person or an organization or some kind of story over time, right? So a feature story kind of gives, it's not that if you have to show up to an event, and if you miss that information, you're not going to be able to write a story. A feature story is just kind of giving you an overview of something. So you're going to learn more about it this week, of course, when you read. But you're going to be writing a profile story. You're going to be writing your first feature story, and it's going to be a profile. So a profile is going to be of an interesting person. And you'll see here I have this bolded though. It cannot be a family member or friend. Of course, I don't always have a 100% way of knowing if you're sticking by that. But I want you to go a little outside your comfort zone. And it can be an acquaintance, right? So it doesn't have to be a complete stranger, but I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say one of your friends has a friend who's in the band. You can, maybe you want to interview that person that's in the band. That's fine. Maybe you go and get coffee every morning at 7-Eleven, right? And you see the same person every day, the cashier who greets you. So you talk to them in the morning, just, hi. Well, maybe this time you can say, hey, I'm writing a story for University of Hartford for a class. Could I maybe interview you for 15 minutes? And you interview and learn about that person. Maybe it's, I'm trying to think of a coach that you have, or someone from your church, or, it can be, again, it doesn't have to be a complete stranger. It can be. That'd be great if you get a complete stranger, but it can be just see somebody that you know all right. To a degree, but they're not, again, so close that you know about them already. I'm doing this for a few reasons. One is I want to get you outside your comfort zone. But two, and more importantly, as you know in journalism, you have to be objective. And if you already know their past, yeah, you're going to maybe ask them questions that you know already what their answers are going to be. Or you might kind of just not ask them the right kind of questions because of the fact that you know them. You might just kind of, assume something about them and not ask them a question and find something out really interesting about them. So keep it somebody kind of neutral, and you're going to see you'll probably even get a better story out of this. Again, it should be written as a Word document. Don't post it in Blackboard as a PDF. So here are a few things that your story must have. You cannot use reporting from other stories or direct language from other stories. So maybe it's somebody that has had other stories written about them, or maybe they have a bio. You can't just rip the language out of their bio on the website or rip some language out of another story that's been written about them and use that as part of your story. Everything has to be original. You have to have at least 4 direct quotes that you obtain. These quotes must be recorded by you and original to your reporting. So remember, quotes are word for word. You've got to get 4 of them. 4 quotes. Most likely, you're just going to interview this one person, so it'll be 4 quotes from them. Though I have had students before that have, interviewed someone and then interviewed a friend of that person's, and they got some quotes from the friend of that person too. So it depends on how much you want to apply yourself in this, but at the very least, you're getting 4 quotes from that person. But you could also, like I said, get 2 or 3 from them, and then 2 or 3 from one of their friends or someone else that could be part of the story. Has to be between 650 and 750 words. Short paragraphs, 1 to 3 sentences, 5 at the most, and be written in the third person. So this is a big one right here. Be written in the third person. Nowhere in your story should it be saying, when I interviewed Mary Jane, she said X, Y, and Z. I was talking to Joe Smith, and he told me that, right? Because if you're using I, that's first person. So everything is in third person for this. You are not part of this story at all. You should not be mentioned in this story at all. This story is about the person. So keep it written in the third person. Your story is going to be graded on how well defined the focus is, how well the theme is presented throughout the story, and you're going to learn more about this in your chapter this week. If all the background information is presented strategically, if it's written in a clear, concise, and informative way, the quality of the quotes. So I want to make sure, did you just get a quote where they said something like, I'm trying to think of something that's boring now. Yeah, I go to the University of Hartford. Well, you didn't need to put that in a quote, right? You could have just said, this person attends the University of Hartford. But if they said something like, um, the moment I stepped onto campus, I realized the University of Hartford was going to be my home for now and always be a part of my life. That's a more interesting quote. That's a good quality quote, right? So I'm not looking for, again, we've learned this in the book, but quotes aren't just because you got something word for word, it makes it a good quote. Quotes are things that you can't say really as the writer, right? So you can just say somebody attends the University of Harvard, but when they talk very personal about themselves, that's what makes a good quote. So that's what I'm looking for. How well the goal method was used, you will learn this in the chapter this week. If turning points were addressed, again, you'll learn this in the chapter. AP style. So I'm going to be editing your hard news story. Of course, I'm going to make notes of if you've made AP errors. So you've had that first round. You've had some practice now with AP. This one I'm expecting to be even better. We're looking for AP, more AP mistakes, and again, docking you the points if you're not properly editing for AP. So that's going to be something you're going to have to edit for. How are the lessons from the chapters are being applied? As always, are you learning? Are you applying things that we're talking about in the chapters? And is it free of spelling and grammar errors? So, it's just a basic. These down here are really these two are just editing. AP and grammar. Are you really editing? Okay. It is going to be due Sunday, July 1st by the end of the day. So, like your hard news stories, this gives you 2 weeks. That gives you this week to find someone to interview. I would suggest doing the interview this week, so that gives you next week to write it and edit it. So you have 2 full weeks to get this done. But as always, if you have questions, please message me. If you're confused by anything from my critique or from my feedback in your hard news story, message me. If you want to, you just have a question, you're not sure this person you want to interview, is it a good person to do, and you have any question, or what kind of question should I ask them? You maybe just want to bounce some ideas off of me. Again, I am here to be able to answer back. Just want to bring your attention to this again, though, in case I know it's been a few weeks now, this response time. So if you get me Sunday through Thursday, I'll respond to you within 48 hours, 2 days. If you message me Friday through Saturday, which I know is prime time because that's a lot of times when you go back and maybe start to read this weekly's content, but it's a 72-hour window, so I might not get back to you. So if you message me on Saturday night about something that's due on Sunday, there's a good chance I'm not going to be able to get back to you in time. So just plan for this in your week, when you can message me. I think this is pretty responsive. I mean, I'll get back to you within 2 or 3 days at the most. And for those of you that message me, you know that I don't take that long usually, but you have to give me that little bit of a window. Okay, hopefully that answers everything for you, but if you have any questions, you know how to find me.